Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to be talking about something cool that I've been doing some short videos, kind of previewing what we got, and only just about less than a week we're able to use our eufy Make E1 UV printer that we backed on Kickstarter back in, I think it's ended in June. So long journey. So I'm going to talk about all that and talk about the good things and the bad things. It's just showing you feedback from a real user. So I wanted to give great feedback, but just initially, just to show you a print real quick. That's a coaster, and it's pretty cool to print, but we'll talk about that and more stuff on this episode. So join me.
We are the enthusiasts. Yeah, the laser enthusiasts.
Hello, Chris here, and welcome to back to this episode. And as I said in the beginning, we'll be discussing the feedback of using this UV printer, the good and the bad, and all that. Right? Overall, great great printer. If you get it working and stuff, it does great things. So that's what I'll be discussing. I have a little sheet somewhere. So if you see me looking down at it, trying to pull it up, so I can actually read it. And basically, let's just get into it really quickly and start about my journey with the printer and just having it. So just having it set up about less than a week ago. So getting the ink so I could actually start doing it. Now I had the printer itself for almost a month, so it's been sitting on my desk. So a few things. So I got to start following the instructions to set it up, right? Shake the ink, put the ink in, uh, push it down each one, right? So and there's a green light when you push down. So some of the first things it does a self check right in the beginning, just make sure everything's correct and running. Second thing you will do is ink injection, and that takes some time. So the setup itself takes some time. So we did the ink injection, so that started, and it went fine. Could hear stuff. I think it was working fine. I was, in the other room when it was doing that. Come back, and the first thing it does is a test print. So when you're talking about a test print, it's gonna. If you owned inkjet printer, you know this kind of. Whenever you do you set it up, I think, or even when you clean the heads of your inkjet, it prints patterns, right? Colors and things. Prints all these colors and things that you then will check and see, are the lines straight? Did it print color? All that. So I did that initially, and as you can see in this picture here, uh, it came out with just nothing on there, just like basically, and I don't know if you can really see it, but liquid was like liquid. Maybe it's the cleaning liquid, the moisturizing liquid, or something. They do test it from the factory, some stuff, so it could be that, right? Some the cleaning fluid or something. Then let's see. After that, I was like, okay, it gives you a thing. Did it match this, right? Did it match the lines? Did it print? No, right? No, no, no. I put in the application and it goes, oh, it runs a cleaning cycle like any print head of inks will do. So it then ran that cleaning cycle, and then I did another print. And this had a little bit of magenta you could see and maybe cyan, but they were very watery and not very good. It was all not good. So all kind of starting to panic a little bit because I just got waited many months to get this thing up and running. So I did some research to try and see what I could find either from forums or from any kind of like what would you call it, tutorials that they might have. on the Eufy Make support site or whatever. So I know that doing cleaning, deep clean or something might help, but that's going to take some of the cleaning fluid away and make it. I don't want to do that right away, but it kind of was something I was thinking of. So I was reading, but you can't just there. It was grayed out, right? The cleaning maintenance was all grayed out because, excuse me. Unfortunately, when you're doing the initialization, you have to get through that first before you can do anything with the printer, really. So it said what I read in different things is you just kind of go through it and say yes, it did print, and I did that right. It said yes, it did print correctly, even though it didn't. And then it went to camera calibration, which didn't work because it couldn't print any registration marks or whatever they call it for the camera. So it said, sorry, failed. It says failed. You failed. Calibration, contact support, or something. I don't know. And I'm like, what do I do now? And then I was just looking. The best thing to do is to delete. I mean, I was able to, well, then I was able to run the cleaning. I was able to run the cleaning once I exited out the deep clean. But after that, you couldn't rerun the initialization. I was stuck. So the next thing I did, when I read, is basically a factory reset. So delete the device and then reboot it and start over. So I started over. It did the self-check and then it found an error. Found abnormal pump pressure. And it was saying all these things, and I tried to look it up, and things looked like what I could read was that it could be a bad printer. So I was like, or something was wrong with the manufacturer. I'm like, oh great, now I gotta send it back, get a new one, all this stuff. I was going through my mind. It's to contact support, which a lot of people would do at this point. The timing, probably they were not around. It's not like you can get instant answers. So I'm just kind of going through and just trying to find out what it could be. And then it's doing an automatic fix, it says. So we'll see what happens with that, I thought. But what if it doesn't fix it? So I was looking, there's something called a 7-way valve, which if that doesn't work right, you have to have the whole thing replaced, I think, or something, or get new parts or whatever. So it kind of talked about that could be the issue in their support site. So I'm like, oh, that's not good. I was like, great. So it went through that process, and then eventually the automatic fix it said it completed. It didn't say anything like it was solved or whatever, but it allowed me to go to the next step, which was the ink injection, which I had already done. So I was like, can't I bypass this and go to the next thing? And it won't. So I said, okay, do the ink injection, and then it sat there. 10 minutes passed, 20 minutes, 0%. Wasn't doing anything, didn't hear anything. So I'm like, that's not good. So, I had to look up and see anything. And when people had problems with ink injection, they said maybe the ink isn't seated, the cartridges aren't seated correctly or something. So what I did is I went through each one, pressed it, and pulled it up, ejected it, pulled it up a little bit, put it back in, so each one. And then it let me do the ink injection again, which was good. And this time it actually started making noise and it started moving from 0%. So it was actually working. And I listened to it the whole time and kind of looked in there and watched. And not that you can see anything, but and I could hear stuff. So I'm like, maybe this is a good sign. So go to the test print and it printed correctly. And I was like, great. There it is. But all that, I couldn't really find much on it, this whole thing. But once I got to that point, it was fine. Did the camera calibration, good. And then started printing. And I did the first magnet. That worked great. So that's great. So that's the initial thing that worked really well. And like I said, printing stuff, not a problem. I printed this one here, which is this is like the first thing I printed, which is on wood. If you look at the back, it's wood. And it uses a lot of white ink, and I think this uses gloss, or it might not have used gloss. So those are some of the things I will talk about here in the thing about, and I'll talk about the software and go through a little bit on some of the software and what could be changed or improved. So I'm hoping eufy Make will see this video. There's some things that I think they can fix on their end. It's not an issue. They're very minor in a lot of ways, but would be good fixes to do and good changes and good things. And you know, I know some people may be watching this and thinking about competitor stuff too. Because now there's some other on the market that are trying to that are going to come out that are going to compete. Because the thing about the eufy Make was it was the first desktop reasonable printer for UV printing. If you know anything about UV printing, I think they start at $5,000 to $10,000. So the ones I knew someone laser person that had a laser business, and they also had a UV printer, but they got their the cheapest one. They got a fairly cheap one. It was like $10,000, I think, and they had some problems with it, and eventually got it to work. But obviously, you know, the eufy Make is much smaller price. Okay, so let's talk about some of the issues, and then I'll talk about the software issues too, and kind of wrap it up at some point as well at the end of this. But I would say the first one of the things I wanted to do was decals, UVDTF decals, and if you use the sticker mode, you'll find that it uses a lot of ink, gloss, and white. This is the first things that I see that get used the most. Because I thought, you know, and then they're very, very glossy. I don't know if I have one of the full stickers I did. Another thing I found that I didn't like too was that getting back to the laminator, and that was they don't provide you with the smaller A paper for the small bed. That was an initial thing that they did make, but they stopped making it and just give you the large ones and say you can cut it down to size. Now, cutting it, I'm not the best at cutting. And if you look at any of the videos from, I don't know, almost a year now, from influencers, it had a very nice paper back paper that you put down with a little tab, so it was easy to pull it off when you were done. These are just minor things, as I said. And like I said, the thing about the sticker mode too, getting back to that, is very, very glossy, which may look cool, but sometimes the applications, like, I want to make things for models, for, planes or trains or whatever, but you don't want, I don't think you want glossy, because in real life, are they that glossy? The decals or which are painted on, probably, they're probably not actually that glossy. So that is a concern, but we'll get more than that. And this sticker, like I said, it uses a lot of more ink because they have more layers of probably of white. It doesn't tell you, so don't know. So it'd be nice to have some better options there. But also getting back to laminator part, for when you print these decals, the laminator uses a lot of B film because for some reason it does a lot more than the actual little small bed. It probably works better with the large bed. There may be no way around that. I don't know enough about laminators. Another thing, if you want to avoid white, see, this is another thing. You want to avoid printing white. You want to use any kind of substrate that's white. And that's one way. So even with the decals, if you're putting it on a background that's white, it's going to work great. So those are some of the feedback there. And it'll probably be all over the place in this episode, but I'm looking down at my notes here. I'm not going to talk yet about software. And another thing about the printer in general. So let's go through some of those. I have it on my desk, the same at this computer that I'm using. If it was running right now, it would be shaking the whole desk. And that's not really great. If you have a 3D printer, you've probably seen that. It shakes everything. But I have a 3D printer in the garage, and it has anti-vibration beat on it, and it doesn't move the desk that much. So if they could come out with some sort of anti-vibration beat, or someone can, that would be cool. It's very heavy. I know you see one of the things about it was that we were gonna be able to take it to events. It is small in some ways, but it is heavy. So I don't know that I would take it to events. I know there's people that probably take bigger machines to events, so maybe not a concern for them. But it is heavier than what I would have thought it was. So, and that's fine. I mean, that's like I said, the competitors that are coming out, theirs is going to be bigger and heavier, and you're not going to be able to put it on a desk probably. Um, um, One thing, as I said, these things are cool. All these different things it can make, um, but they're slow. It's slow, and that's the thing. And that's the thing in general. And I'll talk about in the wrap up of why it's slow and things like that. Um, but it's faster if you do less layers. So figuring out those layers that you want to do, you can do it quicker if it's less layers and the amount of stuff you're doing. Right. The camera is a little bit off. I don't know if I have an example, but even on this one, you can't really see, but it's a little bit didn't go all the way to the surface thing, which is fine. So you gotta make sure whatever you're doing is a little bit overlapping your product because the camera's a bit off on its measurement by maybe a millimeter or maybe half a millimeter, maybe something smaller. So it's not bad, but you just gotta go over that a little bit. Let's see what else. Like I said, it uses a lot of white, a lot of gloss as well. In some cases, you can probably just spray gloss on after the fact, so that should fix that. I don't know what the DTF stickers. It seems that is you want to put gloss on because even putting it on, you may have issues with it sticking or it coming off, or you might bump it before you can put that clear gloss down, which you can use matte gloss. You don't have to use something to protect it, right? And like I said, the rotary's cool. So this is done on a rotary that it has, and it worked really well. And this is long, so you have to use some of the extensions and stuff, but it worked no problem. It's the first thing I've done on the rotary. I will say, and you can see in this one and some of the others I might have shown, it does tend to print darker, which some people like, high. It's very high contrast too, but it does print darker. As you can see in this one, the locomotive is a bit dark, so you can try and lighten it. The detail's there when you really look at it, but in different light, it's hard to see somewhat. So, lightening it up might make a better thing, because you can see in these two, if I can show it, or even just look at this. This is the same thing I did here, and then on this sticker, I made it lighter, so you can see the difference in the lightness. You can see the details a bit better. So that's the thing. It's going to be a little bit darker, especially if you use gloss, it seems to me. At least that's what I'm thinking. The gloss seems maybe darker. I mean, this one is dark, but I didn't use gloss, so it could be anything, right? It's dark. The stuff I'm using, locomotives tend to be darker. So you may want to adjust that a bit. Let's see what else here. Just looking before we get into the software. And we'll go into all that. So that's really what I would say there. I'm trying to think of what else with the other things I've encountered. Oh, yeah, getting back to the DTF, the decals. I've done a lot of this, and that's why I keep talking about them in the laminator. Is when you put the sheet on, I've forgotten a couple times you have to pull the top sheet off so the sticky bottom sheet is there. If you don't, you'll get something. It's like a sticker almost or something, but no adhesive. Now that's fine if you want to glue it on yourself to something. Um, which is, some of those decals you'd get in things are like that, right? Like some kits for modeling, it has no adhesive. You have to glue it on and stuff. It's kind of the same because if you don't print on that bottom layer, the sticky layer, it doesn't have any stickiness on it there, so it won't stick. So that's something that I've forgotten a few times. And it would be nice if the software knew and could say, hey, but it doesn't. There's no way that it would know what you're printing because I'm not doing sticker mode. Maybe in sticker mode it should tell you, but I wasn't doing sticker mode. I was doing a regular mode to print this on, the A film. So it's just something to remember. What else? Not so much. I'll talk about other stuff more in the whole thing. Oh yeah, the cutter that comes, the little side cutter thing that comes with for cutting the A film up or cutting even trimming the laminate stuff. It's not the best. I would just use scissors really for a lot of things, or if you have a straight edge kind of cutter, I would use that. So that's what I would say. But let's look at the software, and we'll look at the software and then wrap it up. Okay, here's the software. I just wanted to show you the start screen here, where you can have your projects and other things you can look at here. You've seen it before, so it's pretty obviously. I've gone through this a bit, and if you go to the website, the Make It Real website is the same as this as well. But now you have a tab that you can actually use, which is device if you have it set up. Right now I'm printing something. But the cool thing is this, you can see a few things. You can control the light. I wish I could run the light while it's going, but I guess that would interfere with the UV light possibly. But I'd like to have it on at other times. I'm glad that you can turn on and off the notification sound, which is really nice. I have it on remote printing control. The reason for that, when I was first doing it, you'd send it and then you'd have to press the button. I'm sitting right next to it for one, so it doesn't make sense to have to reach over and press the button. So that's one thing. You can do reprint, so if you want to do something over and over in the same thing, if you're doing you're reprinting something multiple times, right? Just changing out the blank, and it's in the same place. You could do that. And then they have the AI cleaning strategy. I haven't really got too much into that because I just have it on home, and there are a lot of these. Look for these little question marks, as they have a lot of helpful information. This one, when I looked, had nothing on professional, so what that does, but it tells you what kind of maintenance it does. And if we go into here, this is the main screen that shows stuff is printing, and we'll give you other updates like maintenance or ink injecting or whatever. Now they have ink management, but they do not show the exact percentage. You can look at this stuff, but it doesn't really tell you. And you have the maintenance logs that tells you when it last ran, how much was, or not last run, but when it was last maintenance, like, and how much ink might have been used in a given time. Calibration parts. I'm not sure how accurate that is for sure of how much ink. If we go into something I'm printing right now, although I call it train magnets, I'm doing something that's something I did with AI with our dog. And in here you have these things I've gone through in previous things. It's a lot like Kittl or Canva. If you know those, it looks very similar. There's an online and offline mode. I didn't show you, I think I glossed over in the device settings. There's a way to use it where you're sending it from your phone to it without using a Wi-Fi network. So if you're offline or doing something like that where you're not connected to the internet but through, like, I don't know if it uses Bluetooth, probably. So when we go over here, UV, you can change this from UV to 3D if you had the eufy make 3D printer. When you come here, it tells you which printer you're printing on and if it's in the status. And have a design elements will tell you information that you may want to know about some helpful. And if you click on anything that you're working on, an actual thing, that will then have the different stuff from that particular, what ink mode you're using, etc. But in this case, I'm usually doing CMYK only, trying to avoid some of the white. I will say the controls are very basic, but if you know this little thing, and see it tells you when it's done, which is really nice. And you can publish the thing if you want other people in the community, and it tells you how much was used. When you do send it to the printer, it will tell you how much is estimated when you do the what's called the remote start, where you can start it from here. Does use a lot of gloss in some ways, but we'll look at it. I'll look at this is a fun thing to do, and here's the different textures. So I won't go into a lot of that because that's always been there, but using crop and doing these things, either, like I said, now you can move just these areas, little areas to get it to fit, or you can just change the width and height and make sure this is, if you want to have the ratios not change. You don't want it stuck in 16 by 9, for example. You want to make the top larger, wider, the height wider, and not change the width. But if you put it back like this, as soon as you move any of these, it stays in that same format. But I'd say most of everything works really nicely. I don't really have many complaints when it comes to the software, except for, like I said, knowing how much how much ink you have left. The other thing is, I don't know, like, they give you credits, AI credits, and I know I've done some upscaling and AI removing stuff, and it doesn't tell you it's going to use any credits. I know I've gone through 200 credits somehow. This one over here, relief texture, says 5, so I know that, but these others I don't. So I don't know, and there's no help here on these different buttons. This has got some good question things that would give you stuff like helpful tips and tell you, this is where I found how much sticker uses. So white ink 12 layers, so that's a lot. And gloss varnish 2, CMYK 4. You really don't need typically too much CMYK. Makes it darker the more CMYK and stuff, I heard. And this just goes through the different settings you can do here. It's really nice. I also like the text. You can use text from your system fonts or the text that they have, all the fonts they have. So that's really cool. And you can adjust things like the color, how much brightness and stuff, because sometimes it tends to come dark, so you want to play with that and try all that. Opacity is a very nice thing to when lining up. You can make it 0 just so you have the bounding box and get it to line up with what you're printing on. So that's cool. So overall, I think the software is really good, and I'm sure there's some other things they're constantly making better, and just how it and the usability of it. There's some things where you don't know, it's not in the logical place that it usually is in most tools, so that can be a little bit confusing. But once you get used to it, it's probably okay. Um, the zoom in, you can't really do much, and it's probably because my screen has a very high resolution. But overall, like I said, I'm pleased with it, and I'm sure they're going to make more changes to how the software works with the machine. So thanks. Now I'll wrap up. I'll wrap up this video. Okay, just to wrap it up. What I would say now is that really it's a great machine. I'm pretty happy so far with it. I've only had it a week, so it's hard to say. The DTF stuff is great, printing on things. I would say making your own stuff on a 3D printer and then printing it, or on a laser, cutting out wood. If you have scraps around, that's good for testing too. This was actually a scrap that I made into a magnet. So that's really good. To having all those things to test and do, and like I said, tips are paint everything white that you can, or find white substrates and use those. That's what I'd recommend. So you use less white, if any, if you can. It's sparingly because it goes quickly. And ink's not cheap. So that brings me to the other subject. This is the cost of running this machine in general. So the consumables that they have are expensive, but this is typical of any printer, I think, because the printer itself is cheaper, right? So inkjets can be cheaper. Now they've gotten their consumables down a lot in cost, so that's great. But in this one, this is the eufy make, and it came out good price, very reasonable compared to all the expensive ones. And people, everyone's like, the consumables cost a lot. Well, because it's a cheaper cost to get in, how do you think eufy make's going to make money? It's on the consumables, not on the machine. They may even be losing money on the machine. I don't know. So it's on the consumables. So just say the consumables are going to be expensive, but the barrier to entry into the market of being able to print is great, right? It's going to be cheap. Obviously, it's slow. Also, this is another thing. The prints are slow because it's only got a single head. If you want a dual head, you're going to have to pay more. Some of the competitors are going to have dual heads. You're going to pay more. Faster machines, you're going to pay more. Like I said, the consumables, the ink, the cleaning cartridge, the mats, and anything else is going to cost money. It just is, because what it can do and the price to get into it is way cheap compared to what it is. And someone might say, hey, that's not true, you can buy blah, blah, blah. But the quality is good. The software is good. Needs some little tweaks, but the usability of this machine is really high. So I think those are really the pros of it too. With the cons, it's the cost, but it's a very, very good machine once it prints. Now I know some people have had issues getting it to print, or print good, or prints good and then it doesn't print good, and a lot of work to get it back up, cleaning with the deep clean, which uses up cleaning fluid, but it will eventually get it to print. When it does print, it prints brilliantly. I think that's just the way UV printers are. I've never used one before this, but that's what it seems to be. It seems to be they're not easy. They take a lot of maintenance and a lot to get it going, but this one is the first one that's kind of more consumer level. So that's why it did so well on Kickstarter and why so many people bought it, because it's consumer level. But just remember that with a grain of salt. It's a great machine. And right now, I mean, obviously, we're still in the kind of shortage of things being produced by the manufacturer. But once that gets solved, you're going to be able to go on Amazon and buy ink, probably. If not, I know places like Johnson's Plastic Plus in the US is definitely has the machine, and they'll probably be selling all the ink and stuff, so that's great. So you can get it there, or if you can't get it other places, you can probably get a cheaper price possibly than Amazon. I don't know, or you can buy it in bulk at some of these suppliers in the future, more than likely. But it's a great little machine to do some stuff, and hopefully you'll enjoy it as much as I do, and let those frustrations go, and that you can find just as time goes on, all these things will be solved or have solutions. So no one needs to panic and reach out to support. They can find all the information. And it's a lot of trial and error at this point to figure out your stuff, just like lasers are, 3D prints are, 3D printers are. You have to try stuff, see if it works, and write everything down, keep track of everything. But you're going to have stuff that's really cool. So I think you'll like that, and I think it will be good. So, you know, that's, what I'd say about that. And thanks for watching this episode. Please like, subscribe, follow, share it with your friends, um, or anyone else who's interested in UV printing or has a UV printer, like a UV printer in general. So, thanks again for watching.